Hello everyone, this is Deepak Bari, and in the previous video we have designed this network just based on this image, and we have just assigned these things, and we have just placed our routers, switches and PCs, and we have also did the cabling in our network, and we use the node for each interfaces, but we did not assign the IP addresses for the each interfaces, and we will understand about the IP addresses we have used here. So as I have mentioned in the previous video also that the IP addresses were already calculated. So we will see how the IP addresses were calculated and why we assigned this kind of IP addresses on each port. So let's understand. For demonstrating about the IP addresses, I'm using the IP calculator application, and you can download this application from the Google Play Store. Okay, so let's go ahead about the IP configuration. The first IP addresses that we can see the 174.16.22.57/30. So let's understand about this. So I have entered the following IP addresses inside this calculator, and it shows about this IP address that belongs to the class B network, and we have the number of hosts per subnet. So that means we will only get the two hosts for this subnet. And some of the summary for this IP address is like the network details. Suppose if we are using this IP address, so we have the network address for this IP address is like 174.16.22.56, and the first host that is using for this interface is 174.16.22.50, excuse me, 57, and the second interface, which is the last host for this IP address portion, which is 174.16.22.58, and the following is broadcast address, which we can't use. So the network address and the broadcast address is used by the device and the network protocols. So in short, we did not use the network address or broadcast address in our scenario, so we can use the first host and the last host. So below, in the range of first host and last host, we can use any one of IP address. So for this scenario, we have /30 network. So that means host per subnet. That means we will use, and we have only the two IP addresses usable for this kind of network. And the network segments you can see for these ranges. So like if we are using, I guess this one. So 174, we will use this segment. This fine. So this was for the class B IP address, and it is subnetted. So there's no IP addresses cause waste in this case. Now let's go ahead for this IP address and for this network. Now we have 166.15.2.26, and it was 49, and the subnet mask, that is /29. Okay, now let's see about this IP address. So this is also a class B IP address which belongs to the public network, but it has subnetted, and we have the 6 usable IP addresses for each segment. So the first network address that starts from 166.15.26.48, and the first host that is signed with 166.15.26.49, which is assigned to this fast Ethernet 0/0 port, and up to the last IP addresses that we can see the 166.15.26.54. So that means the below the range of 49 to 54. That means we can use only these 6 IP addresses. So that means we have already taken the 49 IP address and here the 50 IP address. And now we can add the four more pieces to the switch for functioning and to using all the IP addresses. And let's understand about this network. I think I am going clear with this network. So if you have questions, so you can write down in the below comment box. Now coming to the next IP addresses that belongs to a class A public IP address but is subnetted. And we have host per subnet, that means the total usable IP address is 2, and the network address as you can see 103.15.225.24, and the 25 is belongs to the first host and the 26 that belongs to the last host. So that means we have the two usable IP address which we have used for this interface, and the broadcast address that is the 103.15.225.27. Now let's move ahead. You can see all these segments for this network. You can use any one of them. So it is not necessary to use only this kind of IP address or this range of IP addresses. You can use any one of segment. So it defines already there, like the network address and the first host, last host, and the broadcast. So whenever you will enter this kind of IP address, so you will already given the calculated things, and you can redirect to the appropriate result for that IP address. Now let's come to this interface. First Ethernet 0/0 for router 2. Let's clear it up. So 201.251.22.1. It should be /28. So /28 that gives the host per subnet. That means the usable IP address for this segment is 14. So we have network address for this IP address is 201.251.22.0, which we are not using, and the broadcast address also. So the first host that is 201.251.22.1, which is assigned for this first Ethernet port, and 201.251.22.14. So up to 1 to 14 networks, so we can assign our PC, so which is assigned to the network IP address .2. So up to 14 network IP address we can assign. But in case if you are assigning the IP address like 201, like this one, 251.22.15 into the PC or in the switch, excuse me, not in the switch, that is in the router, this interface. So this will not assign because this just belongs to the network address and the broadcast address. It is not possible to assign to this kind of interface. Okay, so let's clear it out. Now coming to the next point, which is for this interface. So 151.22. Excuse me, this was 25.33, and this will be 28. So we have assigned for this first Ethernet 0/0, and the IP address that belongs to class B public, and yeah, we have also the host portion for the 14 IP addresses, the usable IP addresses 14, and these are the network summaries. So we are already using this IP address, the first IP address for this port, and the 151.22.25.34 for this PC. That means this belongs within the range. So we are using this segment. As you can see, the different IP addresses assigned with the different subnet mask, and we have just calculated using the IP calculator application. And you can use any one of this segment if available for that IP address. So that is pretty convenient for this tool. Now let's start with the assignment of the IP addresses for each port, and we will use this calculator as well to there for our reference. So let's start. Let's start all the nodes at once. So I'm using this button. So it will start all my nodes, whatever available in my workspace area. And let's open the console for the each devices. So we have PC1 console, PC2, PC3, router 1, router 2, and router 3. So let's wait for the bootstrapping process, and I think it's done. And this is for the router 2, and this is for the router 3. So we have the PC1, PC2, PC3 consecutively, and router 1, router 2, router 3. So first let's start with the router 1. As you have previously already seen in my videos or in my playlist, I've already done the tutorial about the assignment of IP addresses to the specific ports in I think I've done in the Cisco packet tracer. So now I'm doing the same thing in the GNS3. So if you already know about how to assign IP addresses for these each routers interfaces or in the PC, so you can just skip these things. Don't need to waste the time. Or if you don't know how to do that, so let's do that. So just go to the global configuration mode and need to select the specific interface. So in this time we have the serial interface, and for the fast interface, so let's select the serial interface like this interface serial 0/0 and hit down the enter key. Then give the IP address like 174.16.22.57, and the subnet mask. If you don't know how to get the subnet mask for the /30, just give the IP address simple here 174.16.22.57./30. So it will calculate the subnet mask here 255.255.255.252. So yeah, simply you just need to put the subnet mask there with along with this IP address. So 255.255.255.252, and hit down the enter key. Give the clock rate to it. So let's see. So these are the clock rate ranges we have. So we will use the 7200. You can use any one of the clock rate. So that's not the issue. And let's start the serial port. Because the serial port by default it's administratively down. So for making it up, just give this command no shutdown, and it will just turn on the port. As you can see, it just shows the message line protocol on serial interface like change state to up. That means it was already down. And just exit from this interface mode and go to the fast interface mode. So select the interface fast Ethernet. 0/0. And for this IP address which belongs to this fast Ethernet 0/0, so let's give this IP address there, 166.15.26.49, and we have after the 29. So this IP address that belongs to the subnet mask, and the subnet mask is 255.255.255.248, and we will do the same here. So give the IP address 166.15.26.49 and 255.255.255.248. I guess it was that. Yeah, that's correct. Then hit the enter key, and at the end, no shutdown, and exit from this interface mode, and exit from this global configuration mode, and copy all the running configuration file to the startup configuration file. Okay, so that we have done in the router 1 part. So let's come to the router 2 part. The router 2 has the two interface like serial 0 by 1 and serial 0 by 2, like this. Open the global configuration mode. Now just select the serial interface 0/1, interface serial 0/1, and give the following IP address: 174.16.22.58, and the correspond subnet mask, that would be 252. And for in this time, for this serial number, like it's a case like DT and DC, so we don't need to give the clock rate here, so just simply up the port by using no shutdown command. Then exit from this mode and select the another serial interface, which was serial interface 0/0. The interface serial 0/0, and give the IP address there, 103.15.225.25, and give the subnet mask. That would be same because we are using the /30, and in that case of /30 we get this kind of subnet mask like this. Yeah, 252, and hit down the enter key and give the clock right here. So in this time we will use the 115200 and simply no shutdown. Then exit from this interface mode and select the fast interface mode. So select the interface fast Ethernet 0/0, and we will assign the corresponding IP address there, the 201.251.22.1. And now in this time we have the /28. So let's see about this /28. So 201.251.22.1, and this should be /28. So that means the /28 means the 240. So 225. Excuse me, 255. and it was 240, I guess. Okay, fine. Then hit the enter key and simply now shut down. So we have done this part for this router 2 also, and let's come to the next point, router 3. Router 3 has the serial interface 0/1 and fast Ethernet interface, that is 0/0. So let's assign those IP addresses for this here also. Okay, let me just drag it here. So we have interface serial 0/1, and we will assign the IP address here like 103.15.225.26/30. That means 252. It should be 252, and simply give the shutdown command here and exit from this mode and select the fast Ethernet 0/0 interface fast Ethernet and give the IP address there 151.22.25.33, and since we are using the 28 here, so I guess this should be the 240 like one, and hit down the enter key and exit from here, exit from this mode also. And one thing remember about, whenever you are making changes on your running configuration mode, so you need to just copy those configuration to the startup configuration file. So this is the command for saving your configuration to the NV RAM, and we did not do this thing in the router 2. So copy running config to the startup config file. So we have done the IP addressing to the H interface, and needs to assign the IP addresses on the PC1. Let's assign here like IP address and 166.15.26.50. And one thing about the PCIB addressing here, because this is an emulation purpose, and GNS3 just gives this command to allow us to assign the IP addresses easily and to experiment with the devices, and just only for that part. So if you are using or if you are giving this command to your physical device for the PC or your laptop, so it won't be work. So consider to just give this line, so it will work only for the emulation purpose. So because the PC is just for the emulation. Now let's say it has the /29, and the default gateway that should be 166.15.226.49. It says about invalid IP address. I guess the command was, I think it was like IP, not the address. Okay, so the IP address has been assigned. So for the PC1, so as you can see, the 166.15.26.50 that is assigned to this port like this. Okay, so the subnet mask already calculated, and the gateway that is for this router interface. And let's same thing for do the PC2. Just give the command IP and give the IP address like 201.251.22.2, and it should be slash 28, and give the default. This would be the default gateway address. Hit down the enter key, and let's move ahead for the next PC. And that should be the slash 28, and the default gateway that it should be belongs to 151.22.25.33. Down the enter key, and it will assign automatically to that interface like this. If you just wanna give like IP address, I think. So if you give this command the show IP, so it will give all the thing about the IP configuration for the PC. So it is just for the emulation purpose. It will not work in the physical PCs. So don't expect the command will work in the physical PCs. Okay, fine, cool. So far we have done the IP addressing part for this interface, and okay, let's save this file. Okay, give this like IP addressing part. Okay, I think the project is already working, that's why it's not where it stopped. So let's just close this thing. Stop all the nodes. Let's try to save it again. And give the name for this project as IP addressing. And as you can see, the project has been saved for the IP addressing. So we started with the discontiguous network scenario, but we just did it with the IP addressing section. So we have two kind of project, which is configured with the IP address and which is just labeled here. So as I have told in the previous video, also taking note is an advantage for keep remembering about the network IP addresses and this scenario, whatever it has to be. So we have just used the labels here, use these labels and the note, this note. So it's really handy to design the network in your workspace area. Okay, so far we have done the IP addressing for the each interfaces for the router and the PCs. And one thing you need to keep remember about putting the IP addresses on the devices won't be pinged to each other because we did not assign the routing protocols or the static routing in the router. So this won't be pinged to each other. So making connection between these PCs or they can communicate by using the protocols or the condition that should be directly connected, which we don't going to making a direct connection between this PC. One condition about the PC can ping to each other if the network could be same and the subnet mask also belongs to the same subnet mask. So it can be pinged to each other by using a medium or cable. By the upcoming videos, we're gonna cover about the further things about how the connection can stabilize in this discontiguous network. And we will expand our network because it's not, we can say truly it's a discontiguous network. And it's just assigned with the different IP addresses. We will use the more routers and more switches and PCs here for making a pure discontiguous network, and we will also play with the different protocols and we will assign the static routes here also for demonstration about the use cases of static routes and the dynamic routes. So this was all about for this video guys, and if you have any kind of question or doubts regarding this video, so you can write in the below in the comment box, and you can ask me in the Discord server. And if you have, or if you just need to this IP little link, it's already given in the description box. You can just follow around there and you can just download it on your phone. So thanks for watching this video guys, and guys, see you in the next video.